Hello, this is Lisa. Welcome to the Matriarchy. And we are here. Obviously, Kath is here with us. And today we have Lynn Harris with us. Thank you for joining us today, Lynn.
Thank you.
So, Kath, you want to take it away?
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to have Lynn with us. She found us. If you're looking for the matriarchy, I'm so glad that you found us. That's super exciting.
I'm looking for any matriarchy these days. I'm just looking for matriarchies. So I'm glad I found this high quality one.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you. That makes us feel good. And we are the same. We are constantly looking for matriarchies. So this is a perfect fit.
I feel like we're in this moment in time where matriarchy is having its moment. But before we get into that, I wanted to introduce Lynn. Lynn Harris is the founder of a startup called Gold Comedy, which is a comedy school, creative network, and content studio centering on women and non-binary folks, and is the leading talent, content, and power pipeline for funny women. You kind of had me right there. But we'll add on that she is also an award-winning journalist and novelist. Her prolific 25-year writing career spans from topics such as gender and culture and across a full range of social justice issues, and has appeared in some little-known publications that you might have heard of called the New York Times, the New York Times Magazine, Salon, and Glamour, to name a few. And that's not to mention her 6 fiction and nonfiction books, including Death by Chicklet and Breakup Girl to the Rescue. Lynn has a deep commitment to social change. As a journalist, Lynn's writing has shifted perceptions of violence against young women and has even led to new federal protections for them. Lynn is also a former VP of Communications at the global human rights organization Breakthrough, helping create the groundbreaking campaign, Dudes Against Violence Against Women. She is also a co-founder of Persisticon, a venture leveraging comedy, art, and community to raise money to elect progressive women. And she even had a brief stint as a Tanya Harding lookalike.
True story. Long story, true story.
So the Tanya Harding lookalike, of course, that's attention grabbing, right? But that basically means you're twins with Margot Robbie.
Yes, she's right here. No, actually, I have to say, and I'll, I could spend the whole hour talking about just this one weird blip in my life that happened around the Olympics in '92, when I actually really super did look exactly like Tanya Harding, and P.S. was a skater. And
That's so cool.
so, and I didn't notice it until I lived in Boston at the time, which is of course Nancy country. And people started I would literally be walking down the street carrying ice skates, going to a lesson or to practice. And I had blonde hair, P.S., totally fake. And people would slow down and roll down their windows and say, "Hey, Tanya, go home." And I'd be like, "What? And then I was like, oh, I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh. And it was crazy that I hadn't noticed because I was a huge fan of hers. I followed figure skating. It just didn't, Anyway, it turned into a huge media extravaganza. But to bring it back to Margot Robbie, let me just stipulate that I am a huge fan and remain a fan and defender of Tanya Harding. And I think all of the criticism and kind of just awfulness that was heaped upon her had everything to do with the opposite of matriarchy. It had everything to do with classism and sexism. And one of the things I loved about that movie was I thought, it was however many years too late in one sense, but it finally told a nuanced story.
Yes.
Where she was, neither angel nor devil, but a real human being. And it didn't really take a side. It just created a 3-dimensional portrait. And I was like, thank you, Margot Robbie. Thank you, movie makers.
Yes.
It's time for us to revisit this. So I was really pleased. And there's also an ESPN documentary about the whole thing that came out within the last few years that I also found really insightful and also bolsters my personal opposite of conspiracy theory, which is that I actually don't think she knew what those boneheads were planning, and I have all sorts of reasons why I don't think that. But in any case, it really was a bizarre episode that actually, on the one hand, was just wacko and an outlier, but on the other hand, gave me a lot to think and obviously still talk about when it comes to why it matters how women are represented in
Yes.
mass culture and pop culture. Like, not to get all soapbox about it, but like it really does. Like, harm
Yeah.
was done back then.
Yeah.
Like, that happened in a harmful culture and more harm was done. And so, like,
Yeah.
it to women, to skaters, to whatever, like it really matters. And of course to Tanya,
Yeah.
and so just to jump off that, like, that's one reason why I sort of got even more rigid and humorless in my beliefs about why it matters how women are represented in pop culture and how much power we have to create the culture that we live in.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
I
totally
agree.
agree. For context, we're talking about the movie I, Tanya. And if you haven't seen it, go out and see it.
It's really good.
It's so good. Margot Robbie plays Tanya Harding, and her mother is played by Allison
Oh,
Janney, who is
Mother is a
unbelievable.
heartbreaker. Yep.
And it just, and I haven't seen it since it came out, which was a long time ago now, but it really changed my perception. And I was like, oh, you're thinking about this and the way we were talking about, like, Monica Lewinsky, and just the way we portrayed women was really harmful. And it was just part of the culture. And I would say that this is probably new information for a lot of people, because I think Tanya Harding's still the butt of the joke for a lot of people and don't understand, that she is a human. And
And was
anyway.
a superb skater, by the way, which gets
Yes.
lost in this
White
whole
and
thing.
athlete.
That's a good
Yeah,
point.
she was an amazing athlete. Yeah.
Amazing athlete.
Not given
Yep.
her due. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. Well, we could spend an entire hour talking about
this
Tanya
is a
Harding, but
place
we
to
can
be
move
on
on.
your soapbox. I'm just gonna say, especially when it comes to women and culture and matriarchy.
Exactly. And my side soapbox, I'll just pull up a side soapbox, is that Monica is also a wonderful person. Just an amazing person. She's completely reinvented herself in spite of all of the all the forces against her. She does a lot of anti-bullying work. She is fun. If you don't follow her on Twitter, or whether she's on Threads now or Blue Sky, I think I follow her on all of them. She is hilarious. And has a very does not shy away from that sweet spot where self-deprecating jokes are actually really powerful. So she's like fully willing to sort of joke-ish about the way she was perceived, but also has fully reinvented herself and moved on at the same time. And I think she's just a whiz at all that, and I really, really admire her.
Yeah. I went to see Amy Poehler and Tina Fey live, their show, and it was great. It was super fun. No one could go, so I just took myself, which,
good for you.
Why not? Because I really, really wanted to see it. And they even did mention a little bit about because they're all about our age, right? These awesome Gen X women, and the way comedy has shifted. And, this was some of the early stuff was problematic, but I mean, John Hughes movies, right? There's a lot of stuff in there.
Well, whoa! Ouch!
Yeah. So tell us about how that evolved and where you are, because you've been doing this as long as they have, right? So tell us a bit more about that.
Sure. I've been either doing or circling around comedy or supporting comedy related products, campaigns, and activities since forever. Even when I was a journalist for so long, it wasn't the only thing I did, but kind of my brand was to be able to appropriately blend humor with things that are not funny. To as with Dudes Against Violence Against Women, that was a comedy show, but obviously the topic is not funny, but you are welcome to make jokes about the culture that looks the other way,
Yes.
and enables the continuation
Mm.
of excusing violence against women. So like that's, you can joke about that. So I built my, even just my journalism career around, again, I didn't only do that, but about figuring out how can I use comedy or even just like sarcastic asides as a delivery system for helping people think new ways, or reinforce their beliefs or make new mental connections about
Mm-hmm.
about these issues that are so firmly steeped in our culture. So whether or not I was actually like telling jokes on stage, I was doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And really what I've seen is, and this is something, and we're grown ass Gen X women, so we're going to be able to do this. And that is, it's something that what I've seen is something that requires us to hold two conflicting truths in our brains at one time. And I know we can do this. And those conflicting truths are as follows. One is that the state of comedy and related, entertainment, and women is, and all like people who are not white dudes, right? The state of that is unrecognizably better than it used to be. Okay. Truth number one.
Mm-hmm.
Truth number two, you have no idea how terrible it still is. I mean, like, I'm banging for those of you who are not, I'm banging my head on my desk right now. Like, it is like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And both of those things are true at the same time. So listeners, don't write us angry letters because I said both were true. Okay. Like, the number of, starting from the whole range, right? The number of friendly open mics that are open to diverse performers through the roof, right? The number of women, all the way up to the number of women or just non-cis straight white dudes who are in power in the industry, through the roof. The way they staff has changed unrecognizably. The way they staff writers' rooms, the way they find, there are techniques that are used to deliberately create diversity on staffs, unheard of when I was coming up. At the same time, the other day, someone I know from Gold, who's a stand-up, was looking for a show just to go to in New York, and we were like, well, let's see what's at the Cellar, which is a storied comedy club with many great things about it, and they have lots of different rooms, so like it was a good place to look because there were lots of shows. And it was like, I don't know, a Thursday, Sunday, whatever. So there were 6 or 7 shows going on, and all of them had one woman. And I was like, are we in the TARDIS? Like, did we just go back to 1994? And like, I know this still happens, but to see it in front of your face, and then women are still told, oh, can we just like move your spot on the lineup because I don't want 2 women going together? Like, would you ever be like, oh, can we move your spot because we don't want 2 men following each other? Like, what the, and that's now. And that's only stand-up. I'm using stand-up as a very simple example, but even women who have achieved immense and merited power and presence in comedy query whether they had to work twice as hard and still get paid less. I don't have the data on that, but I've got lots of hunches. So it's, but what has also changed is not what has really changed is not necessarily a giant feminist awakening, though I'd like to think it is. A few other external things have changed that really make a difference, and sort of as a side effect almost.
Okay.
One of them is that research does support and there's tons of this, research does support the notion that audiences actually want to see shows that show diversity. Whether that means that I as a woman want to see myself reflected, or whether it means that I as a white woman want to see people other than white women It's both. You want to see
Mhm.
yourself, and you want to like not see yourself all the time, so that is a thing that that people in development are responding to, not because
Yeah.
they're necessarily doing the right thing, but because they know
Money
that's
sells.
what's wanted, and that's fine. Like, no, that's not a criticism. Like,
Yeah.
if they know that's where the money is, then they should make that. That's by all means. The other thing that's changed is the staggering number of platforms and tools that creators have to make and share their stuff. Does that mean does it mean that, you can be an overnight success in less than 10 years? Probably still no.
Yeah.
But but because we have this incredible proliferation of platforms, obviously Instagram, obviously TikTok, and even platforms like Tubi or other what's called fast channels, which are free ad supported streaming television, which is like cable but streaming,
Okay.
that have kind of a lower barrier to entry than your networks or even your streamers. So, and as I said, there are more pathways that are just like friendlier open mics, So
Yeah.
there are just more entry points, and there are just more points of visibility, and there are just more ways and places for people to practice. You can, even if there's no open mic in your town, if you're developing a recurring character, or a series of tiny sketches or whatever on TikTok, that's also getting in your reps and developing your visibility. So you can do that if you don't live in New York or Chicago or LA or whatever. So there's so many more opportunities and places, and where there are fewer gatekeepers, that it just allows kind of more doors to open all over the place. Doesn't mean it's easy, doesn't mean everyone, again, is a magical overnight success, but that has really been a driving force, I think, in the sheer presence and of just more inclusivity and
Representation.
diversity,
Yeah.
because
Right.
we can.
Yeah. And how about the content, right? Like, you're talking about performers, and like I think pop culture is so important. It reflects back on our culture. It really can shape, like we were talking about Tanya Harding earlier, right? It
Yeah.
kind of shapes this. And so, I like what you said, that comedy is power.
Yes.
Um, and in many ways, like, it's not an accident that, I mean, sure, Jimmy Kimmel, but I'm thinking more of like in France, the satire magazine that was attacked. Like,
Yeah.
if it didn't matter, they wouldn't be attacking it. Like, it
Right.
matters, and so the content, when you have more representation, you're gonna change the content, but I really do think it helps pull society along, right?
Yeah, and I fully agree. And it also, because comedy, is a cultural force that helps define
Yeah.
what you sort of quote unquote can and can't say. It helps kind of move the needle on that. It
Mhm.
it shines it what's the word? It holds up a mirror, might be a funhouse mirror, but it's a mirror. It is, as we said, a delivery system for challenging conversations. It's all of those things. But there's also kind of another level, and there's a point past which the content doesn't have to be political for comedy to make a difference. And what I mean is, to take a super simple example, just, if you randomly go to a comedy show, and it just happens, God willing, to have a bunch of women on the lineup, and your concept of comedian is still stuck at dude. And if it is, I don't
Mhm.
blame you, because they still call men comics and women female comics. So it's like we're like the ladies auxiliary of like, we're not real comics. So just the fact that you go to that show, and whether or not those women on the lineup talk about being a woman or like talk about feminism, doesn't matter what they talk about.
Okay.
The people in the audience, just in that hour and a half, get a little more accustomed to understanding that women are comics, and also listening to women.
Yeah.
Like listening to a woman talk for 8 minutes. When do they otherwise do that? So, and it's not a hardship, it's a comedy show, but all of those moments kind of add up. And never mind, like a white woman like me, what if it just so happens that on the lineup, you have, a trans man from Egypt, or, someone whose life experience you have not, has not touched yours. Also doesn't matter if that person talks about their own personal experience. They probably will, but let's say they don't. Let's just say they talk about the price of groceries. It still has impact because you're seeing that person and hearing about their life, and you are like, you may not be silent, but you are expected to be silent and listen and give them the floor. And that's not an experience you have the rest of your day. And so even if they're just talking about the price of eggs, that is a transformational experience for you as the audience member. And so that's the great thing. Like, we don't all have to become like political comics. Oh, sure. I mean, it's great if we do, but like, we can still just talk about what we care about and what makes us laugh, whatever that is. And folks can therefore make a difference just by showing up.
Agreed. Yeah.
Same thing even with like women over 50, right?
Yeah. Oh,
like,
for sure. Well,
that's a big thing in pop culture now. Right?
We have the same experience here, is like, it's kind of weird to see our faces on TikTok because we're so used to seeing younger people, right? But to normalize it is really important. And I agree, in the comedy world, it's equally as important. We had a guest on a few months ago, Diane Young, who is just entering comedy in her 60s, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And so, I mean, it's exciting time that you can do that. But to your point, we need a lot more of that.
That is one like slice of this whole culture that is changing. You're seeing more and more. And there's actually research behind this that I should have reviewed before I got on here. But the Gina Davis Institute has just released some new research about the increasing visibility of women over 50 in pop culture. And there's always been something, but it used to be like either it was Dawson's Creek or Golden Girls, like it was like, where were we? And we love them both.
I don't like to think of myself as a Golden Girl.
Right. I mean, we love them,
Sure.
God bless.
Although, have you seen them with like when they changed just their hairstyle? They were supposed to be in their 50s. I was like,
that's bananas.
Oh my God.
I mean, women are so much younger, older now, like when I was growing up, if, grandmothers wore house coats, and all that stuff. That's not a thing. But now there's so many, there's great shows on Netflix with Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda not looking young and looking beautiful. There are, the show, I always want to reference the show Girls 5 Eva, which if you haven't seen it, pause the recording, go watch it, come back, and we'll continue the podcast.
Can you say it again? What is it?
It's called Girls 5 Eva, EVA. Because 4 is not long enough. And it's a girl band
I love
that got back together. This is not a spoiler. This is just the setup. It's about a girl band who gets back together because a little snippet of their song gets sampled in a song that gets really popular. So there's demand for them to get back, like to do a reunion tour, and they're all like, and they're all our age, and it's the funniest actors. It's like Renee Elise Goldsberry and Paula Pell and like your favorite people.
Oh, awesome.
And the show is a little. You have to watch it. And it's a little bit goofy. It's a little bit like heightened reality, sort of like Kimmy Schmidt or 30 Rock, where it's like a little bit like extra. It's a little bit extra in the world that's built. But in that world, they take on issues of, this intersection of ageism and sexism, where everyone's like, on the one hand, like they think there's enough demand for a comeback tour. On the other hand, everyone's like, judging them for not being, in their Britney era anymore, So it's really good. It hits the nail on the head just over and over, and it's absolutely hilarious. And they use, because the show is a little over the top, they use that style of humor to really satirize the ageism and sexism that like just is in their face the whole time.
I'm going to check
It's
that
great.
out for sure.
Yeah.
It's great.
I'm so glad I have my next show. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's the best.
I totally agree with what you're saying. You know, the way we portray just what gets represented, and it doesn't have to be overtly political. You know, one example that comes to mind is like Will and Grace, right? You know, it was Joe Biden said like a long time ago that Will and Grace did more to like advance gay rights than probably legislation, right? Because it changed. It was, you know, it was not a particularly political show. And I remember, gosh, when Ellen DeGeneres came out, it was
I'm
like
old enough to remember that appointment television. It was huge.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah,
And
it
I was like, this shouldn't be shocking. And yet here we are.
But this is a very important point because I think for the young people today, they think it's always been, you know,
Yes.
acceptable. But, you know, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't that long ago when it wasn't. But, and I think that's also an important thing to look at in terms of, so we're not where we want to be by any stretch of imagination. And there's all sorts of forces trying to pull us back as women. So, but if we look back at just the last 50 years, how far we've come, it is potentially a roadmap of where we could go, right? And so I think that's kind of some of the stuff that you're working on, right? Do you want to share with us some of the programs you have and what you're doing?
Sure. And let me preface this by saying anyone who's listening who sort of thinks of herself as a fan or consumer of comedy should listen carefully with a new frame as a potential creator of comedy. And I say that because, you know, you mentioned your guest who had just started comedy in her 50s or 60s, right? We have, of course, at Gold Comedy, of course, we have tons of people who are in their 20s and 30s who are who are like dead set on building their careers in stand-up or sketch or TV writing or producing, whatever it is. But we also have this really powerful cohort of women in their 40s, 50s, and up who, for whatever sort of like psychographic reason, whether it's that they're like, oh, hello, empty nest, or whether it's that they're still restless after COVID, you know, like the COVID questions, like, is this all there is? Or who feel like who have hit that kind of out of F's moment in their life, who are like, you know what, I'm going to write that damn pilot. Or I am going to do stand up and not just like to see what happens, although you're welcome to do that, but just like, I'm really going to do this because I have shit to say, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like I'm backing into the story, but I'll lead with an anecdote as I used to as a journalist. We have one member, for example, a member of Gold named Rocky, who is from North Carolina. She doesn't live live super near a city with like lots of mics and ways to develop her craft there. And she's a young grandmother. She watches her grandkids. She has an adult son who needs extra care, but she's also retired. She was a retired high school art. She is a retired high school art teacher, and she she will tell you that I taught high school art for 8 years, 6 months, 4 days, and 2 hours. So
not a fan.
Right. And she reflected to us that she said, I knew I was funny, but I didn't know how to be funny. Like, I didn't know how to craft a joke. I didn't know how to build a set. I didn't have any mics near me. I didn't know what to do with this like idea I had that I was funny. Yeah. And so she came to us and took like all of our stand-up classes 100 times, which you can do, and did the work, worked hard. And I just finally met her in September when she debuted her solo show in New York City.
So cool.
So like, she's not messing around. And so that's when I say to your listeners, like, count yourselves in. Like, I'm not telling you all have to do comedy. I'm just saying, as you're listening, count yourselves in, because there is time and space for your creativity.
Yeah.
And the world is ready for it. So
Yay.
yes. So we have, so in addition to having, examples like Rocky, who is, extra special, but not unique in our, among our members, we also, so we have classes. That's my long way of saying we have classes. We have, classes that are
Are they
grounded.
online? I'm sorry. Are they
Yeah, almost
online as
everything is
well?
online.
So,
Yeah,
okay.
but like almost everything is online so that you can access us, even if you live like in,
Michigan.
northern Illinois or northern Michigan, right near Canada,
Hong Kong.
and but it kind of spills out into brick and mortar. Like Rocky's show was
Sure.
in New York City, like I saw it with my own eyes, and other students do that. They develop solo shows that they then take on the road, or they get together and go to mics together, or and we have done some classes, some brick and mortar classes, and we're looking to start our own open mic in New York City. Like it's fluid, but like the point is that our headquarters and the majority of our stuff you can take advantage of from wherever you are. So we have tons of classes in all kinds of comedy, stand-up, sketch, the usual stuff. But then we also teach you how to produce a sketch. You need to know how to produce. You need to know how to do sound and light. You need to make your stuff look good. You need to know how to do comedy on social. You need to know how to create a web series, which is now a very popular and influential form of content that can get picked up. I mean, Broad City started as a web series, so did Insecure, and that's only growing. Which one?
Chit?
No, should I?
Yes.
Okay, writing it down.
Yes.
Okay, we each have homework now.
Okay.
So
what's it, Lisa? Chit? CHIT?
Yeah, CHIT. Now I'm like doubting myself, but yeah, yes, it is.
We'll find
it's
it.
too good. It's
a web
and they
series.
just recently. Sorry, go ahead, keep talking. I don't want to.
No, I'm saying and so what we do and it's all in the context of a community. You pay to join as a member. You don't pay class by class, with some exceptions, but primarily the model is you pay for your year. And in that year, you do all the things that you want. And we do it that way because the classes are where you build skills, but the community is the glue. That's your crew, because that's where everyone, not just comedy, that's where everyone learns better. That's where, and you need a crew to succeed in whatever kind of comedy you want to do. Yeah. And it's also a professional network. We have lots of accomplished professionals who can, who are there to be like, let's hire some goldies. So, but we have this other class, a premium class that's called Develop and Build Your Pitch. And that one is like an extra juicy one for our Gen X queens, because they're the ones who, as I was saying, who are like, oh, it's kind of echoey here in this empty nest, or, I have extra energy now, or whatever it is. Or like, I'm not wasting any more time not telling this story. Yes. And this class is run by Ryan Cunningham. She's amazing. She was a producer on Broad City and Search Party. She's no big deal. She's also a filmmaker. She works with Amy Schumer. And she helps you. You could come in with just like a little pumpkin seed, seasonal reference, a little pumpkin seed of an idea that you're not even sure what to do with it, but it must be a thing. And in 12 weeks, she helps you do the rigorous work that you need to do to really understand what your idea is. What is that idea as a TV show? Typically TV show, but there's other things. What is that idea as a feature film? Who are the people? What are the themes? What happens? Why does it matter? Why are you the person who needs to tell this story, whether or not it's autobiographical? And so in 12 weeks, you're done in 12 weeks with a practiced, polished pitch. And it's not just a pitching class, because you cannot make that pitch, you cannot create that pitch until and unless you've done all the thought and soul work that results in the pitch that really captures your vision. And alums from that class, including alums from Gen X who did not start out as comedy people or entertainment people, are now out there in the world, shopping their shows, winning festivals. Amazing. For, they'll write a pilot based on their pitch, winning awards for their pilots. We have one mom who is mom of a teenager on the West Coast, who is actually in public health, but she wrote a hilarious if I could swear again, she wrote a hilarious pilot and developed a pitch called Batshit Debbie, that is loosely autobiographical. She has a famous comedian attached to it. It's like off to the races.
That's
So
so
like, and
cool.
she was this was in her 40s that she started doing this with her teenage kid, so I'm just saying, like, listen for these things, because you can do these things.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like the Joker in The Office, God forbid, actually, with the like lampshade on, like, lampshade on your head or whatever it is. You don't have to be
Yeah.
like, there's no one way to be the funny one.
Yeah.
There's no one way to be the funny one. And so I really invite your listeners to kind of think like, oh,
Yeah.
could I even just write a sketch?
Yeah.
Maybe I will.
Yeah.
Like, you really can.
Yeah.
It's like you can have a dream, and now the world is opened so that, someone in wherever can access your course, and you
Mhm.
can lead that to fruition. It's remarkable, and it gives voice to a lot of people who ordinarily wouldn't have that.
Exactly. And that is actually why this instructor is compelled, in her soul to teach this class, because
Yeah.
as a development person, she kept, hearing great ideas with not great pitches, and she didn't want, and it's an art. And again, it's not specifically a pitching class, but she knew that there must be a way to align the quality of the idea with the quality of the pitch, because at the end of the day, you have to be able to speak the language of the
Sure.
executives, right?
Mhm.
And so how do you bring that all together with and keep yourself in it? And she was
Yeah.
like, if I can do that, then think of all the stories I can unlock.
Oh, wow.
And
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
she's and like unleash, I should say. And so like now she's gearing up for the 13th time that she's taught this class for us.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
so imagine how many, new stories have been that wouldn't have been otherwise, because these people, not all of them knew the system. So
No.
imagine how many new stories and faces and voices are, potentially unleashed into the world because of this class, and especially, honestly, especially from Gen X women.
It's interesting that you were saying this about Gen X women in particular. It was during COVID, and I just had this moment that like unlocked the patriarchy in a weird, like, I remember I was doing my laundry. I was listening to like Brene Brown, and she was like, no, you don't have to like measure yourself against this, like, this sort of invisible line. And I always kind of felt like, no, I'm constantly like saying, is this okay? Is this okay? And when that was cut, I was like, my next thought was, oh my God, I've wasted so much time and I don't want to waste anymore.
Yeah.
It was really like a light bulb, like Oprah would say, like an aha moment. And I was like, okay, I have things to offer the world, and I don't want to be quiet about it.
Yep. Yep. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So what's your show gonna be?
It's this.
Same, but we need to get the young ones, to this faster.
Yeah.
Like, we
Well,
need
that's
to-
also what we're trying to do. That's also what
Yes.
we're trying to do. I mean, we have we certainly a lot of our members are, in their 20s, and they're just like, what the hell? I'm going for it. Like, they don't,
Good.
they see
Yeah.
the same barriers. Of course they do. Of
Yeah.
course they do. And they come up against them, but they also can find and, root out the other opportunities and spaces like us
And
to make it work.
and I think like we are like as a society a little bit better like at moving that needle forward. Like my son's in art school, right? And
Mhm.
there was no way I would ever have been allowed to go to art school, because like, what's your fallback? And it's
Right.
like,
Right.
well, if you don't go all in, you're not going to be successful. And I gotta say, when I looked for going back to work, I was like, I'd have to go back to college anyway. I'd have to take these classes anyway. And I have a 4-year, BA, whatever. And I'm like, no, that's what he wants to pursue. It is very clear. He's got a goal. He's an illustrator. or whatever he's going to do, but but he's exploring it, and he's exploring it in that way that a lot of people are like, are you sure he's going to go to art school? And I'm like, he cannot go to the equivalent of high school again and have to take chemistry, for God's sakes, and math. Like this, it's not. So we're opening up these paths, and I
Totally
think
true.
as our young people, to your point, Lisa, is that we are able to like develop pathways that were shame or fear driven, or like, but now you can actually make money. And like, I don't know, even we've thought differently about what does making money even mean. Like, you pay your rent, do you have to be a billionaire, like, anyway, we don't have to go down
Yes.
that
No,
road,
I
but
don't know.
like, yeah. Well, that could go
We'll be a
really
good
into
bill.
a different
I
way.
would be a good
Hold on,
billionaire.
Kath. Hold on. You're right.
Yeah, I would be a
so
really
much
good
better.
billionaire. I
We
would.
would be
I would
so
help
much
people.
better than those
Yeah.
knuckleheads.
Yeah. Like, give us a chance.
Yeah.
All right, I want to back up just a second, Lynn. So prior to Tanya Harding,
Okay.
were you
That's my
always a
timeline.
pretty vocal person, or how did you find your voice? Who is your, especially your female role models in your life?
I was an only child, and I think that it never occurred to me to not just kind of yap it up, because I wasn't trying for airtime. I just could talk. My parents did not dissuade me. They never said sit down and look pretty. That wasn't their jam. The people who were, on the TV all the time were, Carol Burnett, Loretta Swit, the Jeffersons, obviously, Laugh-In, Miss Piggy, like they were like just loud, silly women who like fell down the stairs and wore curtains as a dress, like it I wasn't told not to, but like the value of my voice was not questioned or shushed.
Yeah.
And you
So,
must have been around
yeah.
adults a lot as an only child too.
Yeah, I liked being around adults, and like my nerd, but my dad was a professor. There were always like grad students around from who we would like take in, for the holidays, since they couldn't go back to Paraguay for the, or whatever it was. And so there was just like interesting adults around who were like young and cool enough not to condescend to me. And then my mom was just like, just really encouraged asking for what you want. She always used to say, if you need to ask someone something, ask yourself, like, well, would it be crazy for them to ask you the same thing? And she did a lot of environmental activism in the 70s, and always, and had like, women's consciousness raising groups, which I literally would go, and I would like sneak and listen at the like the crack of the door to be like, what consciousness are they raising? This has got to be interesting. And like, I never understood what they were talking about. Like, never, ever. I was like, this is so boring. Like, what? Oh my God. This is, ugh.
But it rubbed off on you.
Yeah, definitely.
You are quite the
somewhere,
activist.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And she surrounded herself with women and women friends, and they marched on things, and my dad did too. But and so I was just used to it. I remember emceeing a show a long time ago in Boston, and I remember this line that came into my head. Like, I mean, I was young. I was like in my 20s, and my mom was there. I was emceeing some sort of benefit for the National Organization for Women, and I remember saying thanking my mom for making being a feminist not a rebellion. And it popped into my head, and I was almost like oh, holy shit, I'm gonna make myself cry. Like, oh, that was good. Like it popped into my head right then. I know. And I was like, I didn't have to, because it stuck with me. I was like, oh my God, I'm right. So yeah. So it came somehow. And then I, of course, I was a theater geek and, all that stuff.
Yes.
So obviously, surprising no one.
Tell us a little bit about your work with Persisticon.
Persisticon was not my idea, although I did think of the name. It was
Great
found
name, by
by
the way.
It is great.
a bunch. Yeah, I know. A bunch of basically angry Gen X. Are we all moms? Yes, in my
Yes.
neighborhood who got together
Oh.
for coffee like during was it the first it was the first Trump 1.0, and we
Mm.
were like, what the actual fork, like what are we doing here? And we all had different kind of either access or superpowers or something,
Mm.
and all were drawn to the power of community and also comedy, or show business in some way. And each of us had some kind of foot in one or more of those realms. So
Mm.
we were like, let's put on a show.
Okay.
And that was the first one where we decided we wanted to specifically raise money for pro-abortion women candidates. But it was in the larger context of, stand up, fight back, and
Mhm.
bringing together. It was very community based. We pulled in all of our comedy connections, all of our production connections, and started a series of really powerful fundraisers that both drew in really big talent, but then also had this great community component. That was the con part. Like the lobby is big enough so that we had like tables for local
Mm.
merchants to sell their
Okay.
stuff, and sort of politically aligned local merchants to sell their stuff. And like Steve Buscemi would come, and because he
Oh.
used to live right there. He still owns the house, but he moved to Manhattan. um
That's
and
cool.
and it just became sort of like a local but beyond local institution. And we did other spin-off events with like movie screenings about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and like we did and
Oh,
so we
cool.
just, the last one we were going to do was scheduled for March of 2020.
Mm.
And we were like, ooh, the Bell House says we have to postpone, and we're like, okay, well, we'll be back in 6 weeks. And now it's 2025. So, and we've been, I'll be
Okay.
honest with you, we've been meeting to figure out what's the next event. And what we're trying to think about is, and this is really not about Persisticon, it's really just one of those like existential moments of like, what are we doing now? Like, what's the
Yeah.
most effective thing that we can be doing? But like these days, everything is so twisted and bizarro that I actually don't know what's the best place to channel the funds that we raise. Do we get everyone in a room for an awesome show that raises a lot of money? Or do we actually just put our energy into like writing postcards for the midterms, which arguably is the most important thing? Like actually, like what's the Jenga piece that we can focus on that is the most important one to help dismantle what's going on? And I'm not making an assertion. I'm just saying that things have become so twisted that are the normal the tools and strategies and ways of and tactics that we were accustomed to, and
It's
the ways
changed.
we think about challenging power have changed. So
Mm.
that's a long way of saying why it's been a long time since Persisticon has done an event, because we really want to make sure that we're all tired and have a million things to do, and we need to channel our energy toward the most important thing.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but I love that it's grassroots, it's local, it's what you can do in this moment. Your personal resources and like the skills that you bring to the table. There's only so much you can do like federally, right? But like locally, you can have a big impact. And I would say too, Lynn, like what you're doing is already moving the needle a lot. You're getting representation in comedy. It's like not only the people that you see, but it's the content that they are creating that we then see like reflected.
But like we got to win the midterms. Like I can't think about anything
100%.
else. You know,
100%.
so like I don't know. Maybe we tell
I'm with
jokes.
you.
Or maybe
Yeah.
we do a comedy show where we write postcards. I don't know, but like it has to be like surgical in its
Gotcha.
precision, in a way that it didn't have to when the structures that we were challenging were familiar structures in the first place.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you, and this is an issue that keeps me up at night. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah. See you
because
there.
um, yeah. I mean, I don't know how political we want to get here, but we all kind of sit in an area, I think, where we all have the same problem. Like we need to work together with other groups, and I'm terrified because I don't see that coalition building happening. And I also don't know the way forward. And I keep thinking it's going to come, like I'm going to see it. Like somebody's going to figure it out. Someone's going to take the lead and someone's going to figure it out. But so far I haven't seen it. So,
I would in a happy way push back a little bit and maybe suggest I think I see the coalition building. I'm not sure who the leaders are yet because the No Kings marches have been nothing if not the product of coalition building. But I feel also, but to your point, the vacuum that I see, that's just my opinion. But the
yeah.
vacuum that I'm seeing is like we need a leader. Who's gonna come tell us what to do? I want someone to tell us what to do, and it doesn't have to be just one person, right? What's the game plan? And like someone come tell us please, and we'll do it. We'll just do it. Whatever you tell us to do, we'll do it.
But I think I guess that's what I'm seeing. Because we live in a very purple area, and
Yes.
there are forces even now that are trying to divide amongst people that shouldn't be divided.
Sure.
Right? People
Sure.
that share the
Yeah.
same values, but they're using I don't there's an attempt to divide. And I think that's what I'm looking for is, and maybe it is a great leader that can pull everybody together. I don't know yet. Like I
Yeah.
don't know what the answer is, or maybe leaders.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
more than one.
It's not a
Yeah.
leader in a vacuum. It's not
Yeah.
just like, oh, someone with charisma. It's like
Yeah.
it's someone who is has access
Yeah.
to power, strategy, the
Yes.
gears, the gears that we need to
Money.
turn, not just a rando smart personality. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
fun personality. Like with all due respect, it's not Oprah, like it's not,
Right.
it's someone who, I mean, that would be helpful, but it's someone who's already,
And sometimes it's somebody behind the scenes, or a group of
Right.
people behind the scenes, and maybe that's happening. Maybe we're not seeing
Yeah.
it yet.
Yeah.
So I hope
But
so.
I also think there's also like 1,000 of little revolutions,
There are.
I see my friends who are like politically interested, but not like super engaged, and they're starting to speak out more and more. I don't know if it's just like I hear what you're saying. We need more than a needle moving a little bit to get through the midterms, right? But I don't know.
But what if there are a lot of needles moving a little bit?
A lot, yeah.
We did a sketch that I still love. We have teams. Gold has teams that make digital sketches, and we we just dropped our first Halloween one, which is about a super helpful ghost. It was masquerading as a perfume ad, with the kind of like black and white and like flowy, and
Okay.
women going like this. But what it really was it was basically saying like, women, it doesn't matter how your husband votes. When you wear such and such, you can vote any way you want, but that's like a little neat, like it was funny, but like there was all that talk about like, how do we get these women who think they have to vote the way their husbands do, but no one's going to see them when they, behind the ballot box.
Yeah.
So, that was just one little needle. And like, if one woman saw that and said, oh, that's funny. Oh, wait, I could do that.
Yeah.
Then... So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like
Little
I could
needles,
talk about this for
micro-needling,
hours.
I
but
know.
feel like I'm
Yeah.
talking myself.
I have one question that I wanted to ask you because, like, we talked a little bit about like after 9/11, like the world. I mean, the world was very different, but we all still experienced that. And I just remember like comedy was the catalyst to get back to sort of this normalcy. Like I remember that issue of The Onion that came out,
Iconic.
and it was like,
Legend.
yeah, it was like
Legend.
terrorists surprised to find themselves in hell. I thought there'd be virgins, right? Like,
yeah. Legend.
Saturday Night Live, The Late Show, and I get that was like one event and like the world actually came together and now we're splintered and it's been 5 years. But
Yeah.
the comedy portion, that the cultural part of it, like how do you see that, like, or what's your hope for like how we get out of this fucking mess? Sorry. How do we get
Well,
out of this mess?
We already got the
Um,
E, Kathy. Go ahead and drop the F-bomb. It's fine.
what was really powerful about comedy at that time is it reminded us, it's very common and correct to say that that laughter is good medicine, or to talk about how we need a laugh, right? And that is all true. Um but that is not the only thing that laughter does. Laughter, yes, can be a balm, a distraction. Take me away for a minute with something silly and funny. No problem. We need that. We need to
Yeah.
like fill up our tanks, right? But it doesn't stop there. And that's where I think it's really important that we remember yet another superpower of comedy, which is reframing.
Yeah.
And whether it's something that happens on an individual level, where we have lots of extremely smart and thoughtful comics who talk about traumatic things that happen to them, and in the act of doing so, first of all, convey to the audience that the comic, are okay, and yes, you're allowed to laugh, and then go on
Sure.
to use comedy as a reframing,
Mhm.
because once you can make a joke about something terrible, it's actually an indicator that that thing is no longer consuming you.
Right.
It means that you've kind of, pulled it out and can hold it at arm's length and kind of explore the different facets of it to see, well, what is funny? What is relatable? What is primal here that we can relate to? What jokes can I make about, certainly not the bad thing itself, but like my response to it, or how others treated me because of it, or, what are the things I can take down with comedy? And that is a really powerful thing that happened, that The Onion really led the way with. They were the first people to tell a joke after September 11th.
Oh,
And
interesting.
on a publicly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I was doing stand-up then, and we were all just like, well, we will never, it felt like we
Yeah.
will literally
never
never
work
tell a
again.
joke again. It is over. And so did the staff of The Onion. I've interviewed them, and they were just like,
Okay.
they were just like at their desk tapping their pencils, or if they were even at their desk, they were just like, we're done. But little by little, they realized where the opportunities for humor were. And obviously, they were not about the core of what happened. They weren't about the attacks. They weren't about, and even the joke about the terrorists was, I think, a little bit on the edge. They were about how we did not know how to react to this thing. Like, my favorite joke that they did in that issue was, the headline was something like, not knowing what else to do, Indiana woman bakes flag cake. And I love that, because sometimes I find their like Indiana woman jokes condescending, but in this case, it absolutely captured that the whole country was freaking out, and this woman in Indiana didn't live in New York, didn't live near the Pentagon, was so deeply affected, and had no what am I supposed to do? I guess I'll bake a cake, and so it captured that feeling of powerlessness. But that was a reframing of, now let's think for a minute, like give ourselves a minute to think, how are we going to get through this?
Yeah.
And that was the reframing. It put the thing at a distance just for a minute to be like, okay, this thing happened to all of us. And first of all, that is it brings us together, right?
Yeah.
Across
For a short time it
geographies.
did.
Well, and I don't mean you're right. I don't mean it brings us together. I don't meant as a country forever and ever.
No, I know.
just meant in that moment when we did feel shocked and isolated, and to just like, it was like a little push pin, that reminded us that like everybody is feeling something about this.
Yeah.
And so I do think that I would stop short of grandiose magical statements that, comedy will save us, um or that it can literally bring everyone together. It can't, nor should it. I mean, no one
Yeah.
likes every single TV show. That's not possible.
Yeah.
No one likes every food. That's not possible. But I do think that it has the to, to the degree, as we talked about now, this in this conversation, to the degree that it has the power to help us shift perceptions of what matters, shift perceptions of who gets to talk, shift
Hmm.
perceptions of who we consider to be powerful. I think it has a lot of potential to continue to kind of build the air cover um for social change and also be that change itself.
Yeah.
The stand-up Nanette, even though it's not about COVID, but the stand-up Nanette by Hannah Gadsby,
And a
I
Gatsby,
think,
yeah.
yeah, that perfectly encapsulates what you were talking about. Like it was transformational, it was funny, it left me, like, it moved me to hear
Yeah.
her story, about sexual abuse survivor.
Yeah.
And I mean, but it was about the patriarchy and misogyny and that
And
special.
ableism and like so much stuff. Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah,
And also
yeah,
the nature of comedy itself.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I just got very excited.
No,
I
no,
love that
no,
show. Yeah.
no. I thought that was yeah, that was just one of the examples that like popped to mind when you were saying that.
I also really recommend her audiobook.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love audiobooks.
It's yeah, and it's not like just an audiobook of Nanette. It's an it's like her memoir, and it's it's so good. And especially I love audiobooks, especially by comics, because and I also recommend Amy Poehler's and Trevor Noah's because of the and Cameron Esposito. Well, yes, Cameron Esposito's, but also Maria Bamford's, because they are constant, because they just inhabit the book in a way when you listen to it,
Hmm.
that adds such such a hugely transformative level to what you're hearing.
I'm actually kind of surprised that we don't have more content that's like COVID related. And I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was like, "No one wants to publish it. People aren't
Mhm.
ready." And I'm just thinking, like, after Vietnam, we had all these like Vietnam movies. We had all culturally we were
Yeah,
processing this. Like, what's your take?
I think, okay, I have one example, so I don't know if it means anything, but I wonder if it's going to just be in the background or foreground of other stories
Yeah.
that we tell. The immediate example that leapt to mind is The Pit, right? Where
Okay.
they're just going, no spoilers, where they're just going about their hospital emergency day, but they're all, and especially Noah Wiley, is still completely traumatized
Yeah.
um by his experience as an ER doc in COVID. So it's not the story, but it's inextricable from the
Mm.
story. And I
Yeah.
feel
Okay.
like it's going to be like any story that gets set during those years can't
Yeah.
not include some
That's true.
context.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
I also don't think people want to see it. I also, like, if you told me that there was a new drama about COVID, I'd be like, hell to the no. Like, I don't, I just,
Been there, done that.
yeah, I don't, it's like hashtag too
Not enough
soon
time
or
has
whatever.
passed.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But I do think it's not realistic to create any drama or comedy during
Yeah.
that time that doesn't at least reference it.
I
Yeah.
will throw in one plug that the one documentary I saw, it's called Bad Axe. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it was set in
Mm-mm.
Bad Axe, Michigan, which is like, Michigan, we're all about our mitten. It's at the tip
Yeah.
of the thumb. And it was this Asian Filipino family that lived in this teeny tiny town, and the son was a filmmaker in New York, and he came home for COVID, and they run this restaurant, and he didn't even know what he was going to do. He just kept pointing his camera. And the the parents like, what are you pointing your camera at? And then, I mean, I saw this like maybe 3 years ago. I mean, it was like not far after. Like kids are probably still in online school, for God's sake, when I saw this, But that is the one. And I thought they treated it really well because it hit on more than COVID. They were immigrants in this small town. They were talking about like protests. This was after George Floyd. It hit on a number of issues that we were collectively going through. So that's one I can recommend.
All right.
Yeah.
I have 2 on my list now. I have Chit and Badass.
Yeah,
Badass.
Chit.
Badass.
Jay Renshaw.
Badass. Yeah.
Jay
Okay.
Renshaw is Chit.
I'm all over it.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've been at it for a while. I feel like I could
Yeah.
talk to you forever, Lynn. Like I feel like
Yeah.
You
I
ask
wish we
great
could just grab
questions,
some coffee.
honestly.
But are we ready for our last question, Kath?
I guess so. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, Lynn?
Well, I always want to encourage your listeners to check out Gold Comedy and really see yourselves as someone who might have a joke to write, a story to tell. You don't have to already think of yourself as that person. You are already that person.
Yeah.
I love
So
that.
I'd encourage you just
identity
to
is so
give it some
important.
thought. Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and say your website, and we'll put it in the show notes, but just in case.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, goldcomedy.com. You'll get a free
Goldcomedy.com.
gifty, free advice from women in non-binary comics when you sign up for our mailing list. We'll send that to you. And if you DM me at either Gold Comedy on Instagram or Lynn Harris on Instagram, I'll send you a code for 10% off anything that you will get from us. So
All right, there you
just look for me.
go.
Yeah.
10% off.
Yep.
Excellent.
And here's a cat. I hope no
Mention
one's
the
allergic.
matriarchy,
Hi,
and
cat.
then we know
Yeah.
that we came through us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, look at your kitty cat.
I know. Hey, baby. What's your cat's name?
This is Valerie. We have 2.
Valerie.
Count is over there. This is our pandemic dog. They're siblings. Here she is. They're siblings, and I won't make you guess. They're named after. Oh, so Count over there has 6 toes. Like that whole thing. And so we named him after the 6-fingered man in The Princess Bride, the all-time funniest movie.
Yes.
And so his full name is Count Tyrone von Rugen, which is Count, but but his name is Count. And then Valerie, for all its merits, there are not that many women in Princess Bride, and we didn't want to name, it was too obvious to name her Buttercup, so we named her Valerie because that's the name of the wife of the Billy Crystal character, played by Carol Kane. Iconic. Yep.
Now I got to go back and watch that again.
Yep.
Have fun storing him in the castle.
Exactly. Exactly.
Carol Kane, right?
Exactly. Carol Kane is she's a legend.
She's
Yeah,
great.
we love her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is
Awesome.
weird octopus tentacle in my face right now. I know it's distracting, but
We also have a COVID cat named Cleo.
Yeah.
I don't know
Cleo.
where she's at, though. So, all righty. Well, then I'm going to lead into our last question. What does the matriarchy mean to you?
the matriarchy means the way the world should be set up, the model that we need. Because to quote someone on Twitter, I wish I knew who she was. She said, I feel like men are just not sending us their best people. And it's so weird to me that all of the structures that have been societal structures and cultural structures that have been set up in the name of patriarchy are not very good.
Yeah.
Like they're just objectively not well built. Objectively. That's right, kitty. Objectively. Like if you're building societies that enable only half your people to fully contribute, you did not design a good society.
Yeah.
So to me, like objectively, what is that? So to me, matriarchy is the way it ought to be. It doesn't mean no men. It just means
Sure.
a society. Some of my best friends are men. It just means that it's a society built on principles opposite to those that we have now and assume to be correct
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
beneficial, and they are not. So matriarchy means to me the opposite of all of those structures and systems and customs that we somehow take to be the good ones.
Hmm.
The opposite of all that, where everyone can thrive, and
Yeah.
also where all of our clothing has pockets.
Thank you.
What's that? That was awesome.
Yeah, my daughter's 12. She's like, my pajama pants have pockets. I'm like, they were your brother's hand-me-downs. Oh.
This has been a blast. I got to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm so
pleasure.
happy that you reached out and that we got to meet you. Thank you so much
Love
for
it.
coming on. It was
Thanks
a
for
joy.
having me. Yeah, keep
Yeah.
me posted. I'll spread the word, etc.
Okay.
I'm happy to do all
Awesome.
that.
Thank you. This
Definitely.
was just
We'll
a
clip a bunch
blast.
out and
And
put it out. Yep.
All
Great.
right.
yeah,
Great.
Take care.
All right. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Take care.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
I love her.
Yeah. Yeah, she's great, isn't she?
Talking about comedy, everything she said I already sort of felt, but I didn't really have words for. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So like just talking about well, first of all, what she said about like to our audience, which is a great idea, is count yourself in. And I guess that's kind of what
Yeah.
we did here, right, Kath? Like we're like,
Yeah.
we want to do something. What do we do? And I think we were both had some trepidation about this idea of starting this podcast, but counting yourself in, like, just do it. Like, get up and do it, right? And to have like women tell their stories in a way, to get them out there. I love that. I love that that's what their platform is to help not just women, but everybody. But, obviously
Yeah.
we're focused on women here. And, to get these stories, these important stories out.
One thing I was going to reference is that I saw Tina Fey and Amy Poehler,
Mhm.
and their opening comedian is a woman named Zarna Garg, and she was so funny. She's an Indian woman, and like for one, just to have an Indian woman open, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
like like Lynn said, just to see that matters. And then
Yeah.
her story, she wasn't really political. She was just talking about her culture. She was talking about she made a lot of mother-in-law cracks. She was talking about raising kids. It was a delight to see another culture represented, right? Like that you
Absolutely.
don't usually see.
Right.
And so now
Right.
I follow her on Instagram, and there's a couple Indian women that I follow now, and they're just so funny. And actually, so my son's good friend is Indian. He's the one who bought our
Oh,
first
yeah.
T-shirt, actually.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so now I text with him. I'm like, "This is the comedian." He's like, "Oh yeah," because I think Zarna's like a big name, but of course I don't know that, right? Like, I
Yeah.
don't, this is an
Yeah.
American white woman. Like, I don't know her, but yeah, so funny.
I think art is what, and comedy is art. Art is what moves us forward.
It
in so
is.
many ways. It's just really, really important. And I love that comedy is a space that you did not need to study theater or writing in college to get into this sphere, you know what I mean? And so I love that what she's doing is, sort of giving a roadmap to these folks. How can you actually get your story, whether or not you're going to make money? I don't know. Is that the main goal, or is it to get that
Right.
story out in front of people? And hopefully the money will come. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Even if it's a side hustle, just do something that you
Yeah.
enjoy, like,
Yeah.
do you have to, if you want to, like, I don't know, be a stand-up comic, do you have to change your whole career? Like, or do
Right.
you want to just try it? Or,
Right.
and we're talking about comedy because Lynn Harris, of course, has a comedy,
Yeah.
like company, but this could apply to anything,
Yeah.
right? Like, we are on this like toxic productivity that we have to be productive every moment of the day.
Productive to serve the patriarchy, because what is productivity? I mean, productivity is,
Yes.
this is productive, what we're doing right here. But, are we serving the patriarchy? Probably not. I don't think
I
so
don't think the
either.
patriarchy would like
So
us
far,
very
I don't
much.
think we're shadow banned on TikTok, but you never know. It could be coming. So yeah, like that's what the patriarchy wants. And like, why does making that much money have to be the goal? And that is the system. And to
Right.
Lynn's
Yeah.
point, it's a really poorly designed system because, but is it? I think it's well designed if you are the one that wants to keep people in control, right? Like, you can't leave that job because you need that health insurance.
That's a
And if
really
they actually
excellent
gave
point,
us
Lisa.
universal health
They've
care or
got you.
whatever you want to call it, Medicare for all, people could leave jobs. They could go do what their hearts desired in order to make enough money,
Yeah.
because one of our biggest costs right now is healthcare. So it's actually kind of terrifying.
Yeah. And I think what you're talking about is like we don't need to be in this constant hustle, constant grind. This fast track to overwhelm, and burnout. And this is still something we want to talk about on a different episode, I think, because the traits of patriarchy, this falls squarely into it, is this constant need for productivity. When, and there's a lot of guilt.
Right.
So I was going to shift our conversation a little bit because one thing that I had in my notes, but we didn't get around to talking with Lynn, is the
Yes,
Bechdel
yes.
test. Are you familiar with
Yeah.
that, Lisa?
The concept of it is that in any visual form of storytelling, two women in one scene not talking anything about a man.
Yeah. So it has to have 3 criteria. Must have at least 2 women in it. They must be having a conversation with each other, and the conversation must be about something other than a man. And how many
The thing is you don't
movies
realize
don't hit
that.
that? I mean, it's just 2 women
You
talking
don't
about
realize it until you
something
start
other than
paying
a man.
attention, right? Like, start paying attention to the art you're watching, to like whatever, movies, shows, and you're like, oh crap, that didn't like, and that's insane. Like, that's insane. It's a really
It's
low
a pretty
bar.
low bar
And it
to
just shows
clear.
you
Yeah.
how much we've been trained to center our life around men. Um, and and like, we love
Yes.
our men. It's not about not loving men. It's about not
Yeah.
it's about centering our lives around ourselves, right? And teaching our daughters to center their lives
Yes.
around themselves. And for some reason, there's this little thing that says,
Yeah.
no, you're not allowed to do that. And I think that is the patriarchy talking. Like, it's saying, no, you can't be the star of your own show. And it's like, but of course you're the star of your own show. It's your life. It's your own life.
This idea that we've seen time and time again is patriarchy playing out in different TV shows and different movies, like in the representation that we've seen. And and how Lynn was talking, like it's not just the like female comedians say that are coming forward, but it's like women in a boardroom that are maybe
Oh, for sure.
greenlighting shows, right? Like that's why we need representation across
We
the
need women
board.
in these spaces of decision making, because until we do, it's really not going to change. But yeah, I totally agree with you. So I think we're in this sort of revolution with that right now, at least in our country.
I think we're having a moment with patriarchy because Gen X women are not behaving like boomer women. And so I think COVID really kind of exacerbated some of these forces, but there's a lot of them in their 50s. They're like, we don't care anymore. We don't care anymore. Right.
So we got a lot of work to do.
We do have a lot of work to do. But I think that work is being done in many ways. We are able to talk about mental health. Like that was not a thing, Lisa. Like Gen X women were
Yeah.
not talking about mental health as a part of everyday conversation. It was like, well, therapy is great for them that have a problem, right? And I'm like, therapy is great and everyone could benefit from it because we are not
Yeah.
taught how to handle our emotions. And I think that that has shifted, like millennial, Gen Z,
Yeah.
Gen Alpha. Like my daughter's Gen Alpha, she's
They seem
12.
like a fascinating generation. I don't know. I have hope for them. I think they're feisty, that Gen Alpha. Like they're I don't know if the world's ready for Gen Alpha,
Yes, they
but it's
are.
gonna be good. It's gonna be good. I have good feelings.
It will be because they're gonna lead the
I do
way.
wanna just kinda
Yeah.
mention one thing that kinda wraps us in. It's gonna tie this back to what we were talking about with Lynn, which is I'm still not seeing this change that we need to, and I think that's kinda part of why Lynn is, I think she obviously is saying the same thing. Yes, we've moved forward, but we're not going fast enough. We're not going fast enough.
We have a
So,
long way to go. Yeah, yeah. And so one
yeah.
of Lynn's projects that we had mentioned briefly is Dudes Against Violence Against Women. It had a pretty impressive lineup, and it was about men speaking out. Um, the jokes that we used that used to be
True.
acceptable are not anymore. The language that we used to
True.
use very casually
You're right.
is like we're
Right, we're moving
rethinking that.
forward. Yeah.
And I think that's always been the case. I think we are moving forward. Of course, it's not fast enough until we're all on equal footing. It's not enough.
I understand. We've all been propagandized too, and we're all deconstructing at our own paces. I think I hear what you're saying. So, that is true.
Uh,
That is true.
I I think it's the
Yeah.
hidden
Yeah.
patriarchal threads that that's to me is like I'm still unraveling it. I'm still untangling it myself. And I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
that's patriarchy?
It
Oh,
all makes sense
oh,
once you start
okay,
seeing it.
right? Like, um,
Yeah. Mm.
once you start seeing it and I do think like our eyes have been open. Maybe it's just my eyes. I should just speak for myself. Like, we are in a moment that
I do
our
too.
generation, I love our
Yeah.
generation. Like our generation is open to it, right? Like women are speaking out and to what Lynn said, there are so
Yeah.
many other opportunities to speak out. Like, you don't have to be like on 30 Rock or
Yeah.
Parks and Rec to make a show. You can be on
Right.
Instagram. Like we're both at our own homes making this show, right? I really love that Lynn found us.
I felt like I got asked out on a date by the cool kid. But you know what I liked is she said
We're
she
getting
liked she
there.
liked she liked
Yeah.
what she saw, so she wanted to join us on an episode.
I like that she said she's looking for
Yes, I
matriarchy
love
wherever she
that.
can
I love
find it.
that
Love
too.
it. I think every day the matriarchy is growing around us,
Yeah.
Lisa, and if we can give
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
voice to it,
absolutely. All the mini matriarchies are out there, and we're all gonna be, like, connecting, like, we're all little nodes, and we're all gonna connect, and it's gonna be good.
it's always a good time talking to you. I really enjoyed our guest today.
I hope she won't be shocked when I, like, show up at her show or something. She's probably like, "I wasn't really serious."
I think we should really matriarchy on the road. I love it.
Okay, guys, as always, we're doing a little pitch. Really, 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 any sort of interaction you do with us on any of our platforms does really help. I know it seems like a silly thing to ask, but it does help. Just
It changes the algorithm. It brings us to more people.
thank you for joining us today.
We appreciate your time. We appreciate any kind of engagement and share with your friends and, comment. Tell us what the matriarchy means to you on our socials. And welcome to the matriarchy.
Welcome to the community.